All right. Oh, excuse me. All right, if I could have everyone's attention, please. I'd like to get this started. All right, thank you. Usually I could shoot off my gun when I'm as a bailiff in court, so that gets everybody quiet quickly. Anyway, I want to thank you all. My name's Charlie Erg. I'm the mayor of Solvang. I'll be the master of ceremonies. This will be my last hurrah going around, so thank you all for being here. And I'd like to introduce, thank you. I'd like to introduce right now Al Salgi, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise if you're able. Hand over heart. And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Al. Next, I'd like to bring up Pastor Chris Brown from Bethania Lutheran Church, the first church founded by Danes here in Solvang in 1911, for the invocation.
Thanks, Charlie. Let us pray. We gather today within a shared identity as people who are part of the Solvang community, whether it's as residents, business owners, employees, municipal workers, or representatives. As we hear about the state of the city, its current conditions, and its hope for the future, help us to be aware always of this shared identity. Where there might be concerns, may we come together for caring solutions. Where there might be triumphs, let us celebrate as one. And whatever the future holds, may we continue to care for one another and see each other as people who love this community. Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Chris. All right, you have before you, I hope, a program of what's going to be happening today. I'd like to bring on Tracy Beard right now, who is the chairman and the executive officer of our Solvang Chamber of Commerce, which is putting on this fine show. And I'll let you do the introduction.
Well, thank you all. It's 175 people in the room today. I think this is the first time. Give yourselves a round of applause. And no masks required. I have to say, right now I'm going to make it short. Thank you very much to the sponsors. I want to take my title sponsor, Montecito Bank and Trust, over here. That has so helped with this pandemic again. Emma from Union Bank over here put in the best grant we could have for an economic development grant. A round of applause for that has kept our chamber. ExxonMobil, Ellen Hancock, Waste Management, the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians, all corporate sponsors for our community. So thank you for the Chamber of Commerce. Comcast, SoCal Gas, VNA Health, Marburg, O'Connor Pest Control. We need all these people, you guys. You don't want, we need them. You definitely need them every day, no doubt about it. First American Title, the Santa Barbara Foundation, The Santa Ynez, Visit Santa Ynez Valley, C&D, CPA Advisors, Steve, he's wonderful over there. The Berryman, Nielsen Family Holdings, and the Peterson family. This didn't happen. It happened because all these sponsors brought us together. So I want to say thank you to everybody. And they produced your guide. So you have with you on your table a business guide. That business guide was produced by every sponsor, and every business is in it for that pulled a license in January. So that is where we're at right now. So if you pulled a license, you're in the magazine, because we want to make sure we understand our business community as a whole and our chamber membership also. So thank you right now, and I'll come back later and give it over to Charlie.
Thank you, Tracy. And we wouldn't have a place if it wasn't for the craft house at Cork here, so I just wanted to bring up Brendan Searles, and he's representative of one of the owners, Jake and Mel Hildebrand, and he has a few words to say of welcome to you in his new business, which, by the way, we just had a ribbon cutting on Thursday last week. So he is, and this is our newest building and business here in Salt Lake.
Well, funnily enough, if you were here at 7 o'clock last night when we were finishing putting down the carpet, you would give me a real round of applause. My name is Brendan Searles. I'm one of the owners here. I've been in the hospitality business in California for about 32 years now. We are proud and we are grateful to be a new member of your community. Mr. Mayor, council members, city leaders, thank you for inviting us in. We feel, having been in the city for about a year now, we feel a real warm welcome. We're really proud of the space. We're really proud of our commitment to being part of your community. I grew up in Cork in Ireland, and I grew up in pubs. And one of my mottos in my business is that we want to be a community within a community. So you can tell we have a beautiful, beautiful establishment. We've just finished renovating the restaurant. Literally, we finished this last night so that we could host our State of the City luncheon. So we're proud to be at this stage. We want you all to know that if you have special needs or you have something that, a charity that you're associated with, please reach out to us, let us know. We will help host it, and we will give you special rates because we want to give back to our community. I want to say a special thank you to the management of the Cork Hotel, in particular Mr. Scott. I would like to say you have guided us through this. We didn't know what we were doing when we got here. We're so grateful for you. Thank you very much for the rest of your management team. We feel like we're going to be a good partner for you, and you have welcomed us with open arms as well. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
That would be Scott Gold over there. Just making sure we get all the names in correctly. And again, thank you, Brendan, and to the team to having us here for our State of the City. I would like at this time to welcome, as I said, I'm the Master of Ceremonies, so I get to have the privilege of welcoming our keynote speaker. We have with us today State Controller Betty T. Yee. She was elected in November of 2014 following 2 terms of service on the California Board of Equalization. As controller, she continues to serve the board as its 5th voting member, and she was reelected for a 2nd term as controller in 2018. She's also only the 10th woman in California history to be elected to a statewide office. Quite an accomplishment there. She's also the chief fiscal officer of California, which has the world's 5th largest economy. She chairs the Franchise Tax Board and serves as a member of the California Public Employees Retirement System, lovingly called CalPERS, and the California State Teachers Retirement System called CalSTRS. Those are the nation's largest public pension funds, and they have a combined portfolio of more than $800 billion in that. I have to redo that and just make sure, $800 billion in that. She also serves on dozens of other boards and commissions, reflecting policies ranging from land management, affordable housing, and alternative transportation to crime victim compensation and health and educational facilities. She's also the chair of the State Lands Commission, provides stewardship of the public lands, waterways, and marine resources through economic development, protection, preservation, and restoration consistent with the state's environmental needs. In that capacity, Ms. Yee led the adoption of the Commission's first ever strategic plan focusing on addressing sea level rise and oil decommissioning with a commitment to environmental justice and tribal consultation. She was also spearheaded the shuttering of the last state oil platform in our channel just recently. She's a native of San Francisco. She has more than 35 years of experience in public service, specializing in state and local finance and tax policy. She leads an experienced full-time team of public service professionals who are responsible for financial reporting, audits, and issuing more than $49 million in payments annually to vendors, local governments, school districts, taxpayers, and state employees. Just for that, I asked her, I mean, she's the one that when you get your refund checks, if you get there, anything related to the state, it's her signature that's actually on those checks. So, doggone it, she has hand cramps, and we really appreciate you being here. This is her little break because she has a lot more signing to do later on up in Sacramento, but State Controller Betty Yee, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Reagan. Good morning, or good afternoon, soon good afternoon to all of you. It really is truly a pleasure to be here in the city of Solvang, and one of the most beautiful parts of the state, as I know all of you feel as well. And what I just want to say to the mayor and to all of our elected officials here and to all the elected officials, representatives here is you are well represented at all levels of government in this community. And I'm just so thankful that I have the opportunity to work with just some wonderful leaders who are very dedicated to the community. We can serve in the highest of offices, but when you don't have your foot really still in the community, it really doesn't matter, because we are here to make, hopefully, all of our communities better. Certainly what we've experienced over the past 2+ years has tested us. And I think this city is really a shining example of not only resilience, but just the fact that all of you really have cared for one another in such a deeply meaningful way. And I want to thank Pastor Brown for the reflection that he shared, because you know, so much of what I think happens when we are in difficult times is that oftentimes, particularly in my world in politics, there's a lot of scapegoating. And when in fact we all need to be pulling together and move forward together to be sure that we are doing everything we can to improve our community. So thank you all very much for just staying together, not giving up on California, and being an example of what it means to be a community during some very, very difficult times. I wanted to start by just also saying to the mayor, thank you for your leadership. These have not been easy times for any of our elected officials, and I know that as I sit in Sacramento, it was very, very difficult to govern without being able to travel, to be in communities, to understand the needs firsthand. But then when I hear what Tracy is up to, I don't feel so badly, because this woman has a pulse on everything. And Tracy, and to the chamber here, the tremendous partnership that I know she has with the business community here. Obviously, we're sitting here at in this beautiful venue where this is made possible because of the commitment that all of you have to the community and to being sure that businesses thrive and succeed here. The mayor talked about the 49 million payments that I issue every year. Add about 13 million on top of that last year, because some of your neighbors received stimulus checks from the state of California as well. And I will tell you that I'm so proud of my team. I have a team of about 300 people who came to work every day during the pandemic just to make payments, because we knew that when people are in crisis, they depend on their government, they depend on these resources. And the stimulus checks, the governor wanted them out before the end of the calendar year last year. We weren't sure how we were going to add 13 million payments on top of that with a global paper shortage that we were confronting, as well as many of the recipients unbanked. So we were able to get that work done. My team came to me to say, we can do this, Betty. Put us on shifts, we will get it done. And sure enough, they did. But this is the kind of spirit that I know pulls all of Solvang and this county and this community together, that whatever it takes to get the job done. And so just my hat is off to all of you. What I thought I'd do today is to paint a picture of the state for you, because this is going to be, I think, vital with respect to how the city is going to move forward. And I'm very excited about the direction of the city. And I know that all of you have had a hand and a voice in terms of what you want to see the city become and how it will continue to grow and thrive and be a place, frankly, that can be home that everyone can feel like is their community. So I'm just thrilled to be here. You know, as I think about what is happening in California, of course, everyone looks to California. But I don't know that everybody looks to Solvang, California. But they should. They should. When I think about how people look to California, they think we're always the first to do things. Sometimes we're the first to do some crazy things. Sometimes we're the first to do some very bold and daring things. And sometimes we're the first to actually, deal with a lot of tension because there are so many diversity of opinions and thoughts about how we should move forward. And I think that's also healthy. But at the same time, there's no room for what we are seeing more and more of, and that is just how we like to think about working through our differences, that the tone and tenor of our civil discourse, how people have even resorted to violence. Those kinds of things are not what we consider to be what makes healthy communities, and certainly not what we believe is what civility looks like. So I will say that as the Chief Fiscal Officer of California, and certainly as the CFO of the fifth largest economy, this is not possible without the economic vitality of regions like this part of the state, and certainly like the city of Solvang. I come here today really to talk about just some of the biggest issues we're tackling as a state, because I know that these are the same issues that you're tackling as a city and as a region. I should also say that I'm also the state's independent auditor, and so when I look at your tax dollars coming to Sacramento, every bill that we pay gets audited to be sure it's going to the right place. Every dollar that our State Department spend, we audit to be sure that it's going to the right program. And so as I look at what I've been able to accomplish since I was elected in January 2015, we've been able to uncover about $7.25 billion of public funds that have been directed to unallowed uses. And it's not anybody's fault, necessarily. It wasn't fraud, but it speaks to really the dearth of financial professionals that are in state government right now. And so we have a huge challenge in terms of recruiting and bringing in that next generation of financial managers. And I think that's a challenge through all of our levels of government in terms of being able to hire that talent and really have the people who have the commitment to be sure that we are being good. National economy, the state of the national economy is a mixed bag. We've been reading a lot about what's been happening, a lot of conflicting narratives. But in short, we're seeing hiring that is continuing at an elevated rate, but inflation is still definitely hovering around us. I do a lot of work in the investment arena, as the mayor said, in the CalPERS and CalSTRS arena. And when I see that the yield curve on U.S. Treasury bonds becomes inverted, we see short-term bonds producing higher yields, and long-term dated ones that usually carry lower risk are not performing as well. That's usually a sign that something is wrong. And so this signal has actually preceded every recession that we've seen over the course of the United States' history. And so we do believe that we are, if not already in a recession, we'll be in a recession. And the question is how deep and how long. And my prognosis is that it will not be a prolonged recession. I think as we have all been working our hardest to recover from the COVID pandemic, that we are seeing just all of the things that we need to do to be sure that we are uplifting our business community, that we are looking to support our workers, that we are looking at being sure that we are funding our most essential services so that inflation is not being driven by the pursuit of additional consumer demand for things that they want, but really things that they need. So the stimulus dollars, obviously, the inflation relief that we'll be also sending out to vulnerable Californians, really meeting the most basic of needs in terms of food, gas, rent, and that sort of thing. So the U.S. Federal Reserve, we've been seeing what they've been doing. They've been raising interest rates at a pretty good clip to try to quell the demand for goods and services. And our economists are expecting another half point increase in September, another quarter point increase in November, and a quarter point increase in December. So this is just going to continue to rise. It has begun to have some impact in our housing market with respect to the demand for housing. And then in terms of the most recent survey of economists, more and more are projecting a recession that probably is going to occur in full within the next 2 years. I think we are approaching it as we speak. We also are going to see a gradual increase in the number of unemployment claims, as has already been evidenced in the past several weeks. And let me speak about employment a little bit, because this is where all of us are scratching our heads as we monitor the situation. So despite the trends that I've just talked about, unemployment remains relatively low. So we have nationally an employment picture where we saw over 500,000 jobs that were added to the economy in July, and the unemployment rate stands at about 3.5% nationally. And for context, the national unemployment rate was 14.7% at the beginning of the pandemic in April of 2021. So you can see just the remarkable recovery that we've made. California's unemployment, measured by the EDD, stands at 3.9%, and this is the lowest ever on record in a data series that dates back to 1976. And so this is really a bright picture from a percentage basis. And we've now regained about 97.3% of the jobs, the non-farm jobs that we lost during the height of the pandemic. And here in Santa Barbara County, the unemployment stands at 2.8%. And I think as we're all struggling to look at the labor shortages that we still are seeing on our main street throughout the state and all across different industries, what we are really seeing is just workers questioning the kinds of jobs that they really want to work in. What has become very heightened, particularly for our legislators, is the whole notion of job quality. And now that we've had a taste of the ability to work remotely and to have flexibility in the ways that we work, workers are looking for more of those flexible situations. And I can say that personally with my own hiring, that we are hybrid as we speak. We have our employees coming back, not in any mandated pattern, and it's no one-size-fits-all, but really based on the operational needs. So as long as checks need to be cut, we're going to get them out on time. As long as tax refunds need to be issued, they will be out on time. Retirement checks are going out on time. So all based on operational need, but so that team that cuts checks, does the mail, has to be on site. Those who are in less of the essential roles are able to work remotely. And this is what workers are looking for. They want that flexibility. They want the flexibility to be with family. And certainly, as we know, this pandemic and all of its related variants that continue to affect us are demanding that we think more flexibly about the way that we work. So the inflation numbers, this has been the headline for the past period of time. The Consumer Price Index, which measures the changes in the price of goods and services, was unchanged in July after rising about 1.3% in June. So that's a good sign. We're kind of holding steady. What we call the All Items Index increased about 8.5% for the 12 months ending in July, which was a smaller figure than the 9.1% increase for the period ending in June. So the All Items Less Food and Energy Index rose about 5.9% over the last 12 months. And why this is important is that it helps us track where we are seeing just some of the difficulties that consumers are having relative to price increases. And as we're having the legislature and the governor directing relief, that we know that it is going to have an impact on households. So the inflation relief package here in California that was adopted as part of the 2022-23 budget plan by the legislature, enacted by the governor, will be a taxpayer relief program where my office and the Franchise Tax Board will be sending out payments ranging from $200 to $1,050 depending on income and family size. And all told, it will be 18 million payments that will be issued, and it will be ones that I believe will be issued, we hope, by the end of the calendar year. But again, still facing a global paper supply shortage, and we are encouraging many more of our taxpayers to be on electronic funds transfer so we can transfer those dollars straight into their bank account. And then as well, for our most needy Californians, we did accelerate the COLA for those on SSI, SSP, Social Security Income Protection Programs. And for the CalWORKS grants, they will be receiving a 21% increase over the next 2 years to help with their monthly obligations. Now, I know a big issue for businesses, and this is one because I always think about the liabilities that California is carrying on its books. Not only in terms of our long-term pension liability, our unfunded health care obligations as well for our retirees. We are working those down. Governor Brown, and I do need to give kudos to our former governor, but for all of our 21 bargaining units of state employees, they are now prepaying into their retiree health care, which was not the case prior to our employee negotiations under his watch. But we do have in the budget $1.5 billion for the unemployment insurance cost relief, and this includes another $1 billion to begin to pay down the federal loan that we had to rely on because of the magnitude of our unemployment claims during the pandemic. We have $439 million in the budget to suspend the sales tax, the general fund portion of the sales tax on diesel fuel. So this will be reducing the price of diesel by 23 cents per gallon. So this definitely helps our business community here in California. We have $250 million for relief grants for small businesses and for our nonprofit organizations with up to 150 employees to offset the costs of recently enacted supplemental sick leave program. And then $75 million for the California Small Agricultural Business Drought Relief Grant Program run out of the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. And then $1.3 billion for retention stipends to our healthcare workers who were most affected during the pandemic. And so as you can see, we have had coffers that have been very healthy. The stock market was very kind to us during the pandemic, but we have been socking a lot of that way in our rainy day fund and our budget reserve as well. But what we do have is so-called surplus. We have been Reduction Act, which includes various tax, renewable energy, and healthcare related provisions. And it's estimated that the total revenue raised from the legislation will be about $300 billion from various sources that will have all kinds of benefits to Californians, including prescription drug pricing reforms. We will have more hopefully, just more opportunities for job creation as we look at particularly the $390 billion invested in climate solutions and looking at how we are going to deal with the impacts of climate change. So I will say that for cities like Solvang, extra money in Californians' pockets, in California's coffers, means extra money in hopefully all of your pockets as well. And our job is to be sure that those dollars flow smoothly and that certainly the work that my office does is going to be one where we can really be timely with the payments to all of you as we receive these funds from the federal government. So we rely a lot on the UCLA Anderson forecast with respect to how our economy is doing. We've noted some difficulties with how the economists at UCLA have been answering the question, are we in a recession? I think depending on your vantage point, we answer that differently. As I said, usually 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth is pretty much widely considered to be the signal of the start of a recession. I have not really pegged that to why I feel a recession has started. It is the fact that that usually in the past, the National Bureau of Economic Research, when they say we're in a recession, gosh darn it, we're in a recession. But we don't see that yet either. But I do think that what we're seeing, and you see it all here, the fact that we have labor shortages still across each of our economic sectors, the fact that we are still dealing with, I think, inflationary pressures down to individual households. The fact that we are going to see housing severely affected when we continue to see interest rates rise. And part of why I do think there is this labor shortage is that it's not only a mismatch of the skills that are required of businesses today, but we also have had many workers who have just dropped out of the workforce altogether. Many of you have heard about the Great Resignation during the pandemic, workers who chose to leave the workforce because they just were fed up and didn't feel that the work that they were doing was satisfying, but more importantly, it wasn't enough to even provide a livelihood. And we did have, obviously, a lot of pandemic relief coming from the federal government as well as the state that allowed many Californians to be able to not work during that time. But as they're now struggling to get back into the workforce, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Businesses are looking at different ways of having their workers work. Different skills are being demanded of workers who are coming back into the workforce. And we also know that as we see inflation and just what businesses are paying workers, It's been a huge competition for workers within various sectors of the economy. So how have our state revenues been doing? I will say that for the first time, for the first 2 months of this fiscal year, in June and July, we have seen something that we didn't even see during the pandemic, and that is our revenues are trailing behind forecast. That to me is really the start of potentially recession. The slowing up in hiring, the idea that our personal income tax, which drives most of our tax revenues in the state of California, makes up close to almost 70% of our general fund revenue in California. It's a very volatile source of revenue, as much of that is derived from investment-related income. And so when we see that those revenues coming in behind forecasts, it suggests to me that particularly some of our larger companies are really making decisions to delay hiring and delay business growth as well. So this to me is a, is a first sign of potentially recessionary impacts. We also know that as we reach what we call the state appropriations limit, and this is getting a little technical, but it is going to be an issue next year, as you hear from your legislators. We have what is called in the Constitution a state appropriations limit. When the property tax rate was capped in 1978 under Prop 13, we had a companion proposition on that ballot that essentially capped state spending and actually local spending as well. It's an appropriations limit that capped it to the spending rate in 1979 grown forward by the Consumer Price Index. And so the robust revenues that we've been receiving as a state of California has actually exceeded that limit if we were to spend it all. But there are three purposes that the state can spend those extra dollars that would not have us exceeding that limit. So in other words, the limit can be essentially ignored or fulfilled in terms of not having to return dollars back to taxpayers if we spend it more on our public education system, on infrastructure, and as tax refunds or tax rebates back to Californians. And so what you see in terms of these inflation relief payments, what you saw in terms of last year's Golden State stimulus payments were all part of how we dealt with the state appropriations limit. The problem is going forward, if we keep having these revenues come in at the clip that we've seen it, we will have to spend essentially $1.60 for every dollar of the cost of a program. And so this is a little bit of a chasing your tail scenario. In some ways, the forecast or the revenues not meeting forecasts suggests that maybe we won't hit that problem next year. But if we do, it will be a very extraordinary situation for the legislature to really prioritize their spending to be sure that we are getting the most value of where we are directing those general fund dollars. In terms of infrastructure spending, we did do a great deal of infrastructure spending. We are looking to harness the once-in-a-generation investment under the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The governor's budget builds on the historic investments made in that act, and so we are looking at receiving about $14 billion in federal funds and to direct much of that to our transportation systems, to clean water and drinking water, to increasing our weatherization and energy assistance programs, to expanding broadband in California, and then also looking at cybersecurity issues as well. And particularly as we are seeing more people work remotely and logging in from various systems throughout the state. As far as broadband implementation, which I know is very important to many regions of the state, including this one, the governor did make a historic broadband move by signing a bill that will help bridge the digital divide and providing reliable and affordable internet service to all Californians. And this was done last year. And the goal of the investment is to provide equitable access. And this, coupled with what we hope to be seeing from the federal government, we believe will help in terms of closing that digital divide. We have also allocated $6 billion to look at just kind of having that middle mile broadband completed. It is an open access statewide network, and so to be able to close that gap will be very helpful to many of the regions who aren't able to enjoy reliable and affordable broadband today. We have $2 billion for that last mile infrastructure project, so maybe you're a little further from that middle mile, but that last mile is just as important. $750 million for a loan loss reserve to support local governments, broadband infrastructure development, and then $50 million for local agency technical assistance grants, including funding for our tribal communities as well. We all know that the economy can not be robust if we don't have reliable, accessible, and affordable broadband access. We can do business anywhere in the world, from any part of California, if we are able to just ensure that we have that. And then let me just speak a little bit about water, because this is becoming a much more dire situation. I certainly see it globally, as I said, on the public pension funds with respect to our water risk around the world, and looking at how we have essentially, as the mayor said, $800 billion invested in both of our public pension funds, but many of the companies in which we invest are experiencing high levels of water risk, either with respect to water scarcity or not a reliable source of water to continue their business operations. And so much of the work that we are doing globally is to be sure that we are engaging our businesses to have them look at all of the ways that we can have them be more water smart about their energy. And so we have also a bit of an energy crisis here in California, so it's all interrelated. And so we will see a lot of robust debate around that. But also as we talk about housing, so we know that we still have many more units of housing that are being demanded that need to be built throughout California. But of course, you need to identify a source of water for new housing development. And so all of this is inextricably related, and we hope that the legislature, as they are tackling these issues, will understand certainly the role of local governments and that you play, and that there's a reason why you don't permit a lot of housing, because you have to take all these needs into consideration. But when you do, hopefully there is a place where we can really come to have the state assist you in terms of building more affordable units of housing, and really being able to meet some of the needs of our lower income Californians throughout the state. And then lastly, I'm just going to just offer some highlights with respect to what I see going forward for the state. This has been an extraordinary time. I can say that over my 38 years of public service, I don't know that I've seen a time where we have been tested to this degree, where we have not had the certainty that I think all of us feel like we want every day when we get up, to know what's going to be facing us tomorrow. I know I've been through a lot of recessions, I've been through a lot of economic downturns, and what we always used to rely on when we had a downturn was just consumer spending and residential and commercial construction. And those two things are not the reliables anymore. When we look at just how deeply many consumers have been hit during the pandemic, when we look at just how so many communities have been devastated, because we have had basically a state where we have had growing inequality. And now I think really the focus that you're going to be seeing the legislature, certainly this administration in Washington, really tackle is looking at how we can really build, and as President Biden says, rebuild with more equity, and really with the idea that everyone has the ability to be in a better place economically. And so as I think about our place in California as the world's 5th largest economy, that only is possible because that rests on the economic health of each and every one of you, and on the business health of each and every one of our communities here in California. And so what you will see, and I know Tracy knows this, Small Business Administration, the Office of the Small Business Advocate under Governor Newsom's administration, all of us at the state of California, we are very focused on what happens with the business community, and particularly with the small business community here in California. We believe this truly will be the engine that will restart and reignite our economy here in California. We always see elected officials talk about small businesses. I have a soft spot in my heart for small businesses. I grew up in one, and I just know how much sacrifice it takes, and for many of you who own and operate them, the numbers of years that you don't get paid until you actually are making a profit. So when I look at this, and certainly what we have been through, I can say that both President Biden's administration and Governor Newsom's administration are very focused on the needs of small businesses. There's been a lot of assistance already provided, but there will be more as we learn more about the needs that are being unmet. And I know that just what we are doing with respect to inflation relief, what we're doing with respect to just some of the other burdens of of the cost of living are helping to some extent, but if we want to see businesses sustain here, we are going to need to look at the tax structure. If we want to see businesses sustain here, we are going to need to look at how we're going to build and sustain a workforce here throughout California. If we want to look at successful businesses, we have to continue our investments in public education with a tie to what the workforce of the future really demands. And so I'm excited about the prospect that as we are coming out of this pandemic, I hope that when history is written about this time that we have all lived through, the times that we are continuing to live through, the fact that you all are here and resilient, and I will say phenomenally happy about just the state of this city and where we are going, the state of this county, and you have wonderful legislative representation and representation in Congress. What I am most hopeful about is this. I hope that when the history books are written, that what we will be reading about is how the biggest lesson we learn is how each of us is essential to the other. That none of us could have gone through this ourselves. And whether it was just checking on a colleague just to say, or a neighbor to say, how are you doing? How are you doing? Or looking at whether any of our essential frontline workers, our healthcare workers, needed a break and needed a place to stay because they couldn't go home after they were treating COVID patients. When we look at all of these experiences that happened during the COVID crisis, please keep those in mind and in some way memorialize those moments, because this is how we're going to get through together. And I'm convinced of this. This state has been very kind to me as a daughter of immigrants, and I would not be standing here as the CFO of the fifth largest economy in the world had it not been for the opportunities I had in our public school system and our University of California higher education system. But this is our dream for every Californian. And so I hope that as we take our experiences for the past 2+ years with us, as we move this city forward, as we move this state forward, let us not forget how we did this. And we did this because we looked at ourselves and we said, we can be helpful. We can be helpful to our neighbor. We can be helpful to even a stranger. But the fact that we are all building a community together where each of us belong is really the goal here. And I just want to congratulate the city of Solvang, its leadership, Santa Barbara County, all of you here in the business community and the residents of Solvang who really have not given up on the city, even in the toughest of times. And you have a rich history here. You have a wonderful future that is bright. You have committed leaders. And I think these are the ingredients for what we hope we will see as the model of how we do build back in a more healthy way, but more importantly, in a way that really values and emphasizes community. So I appreciate being invited here today, and thank you very much for the invitation.
All right, thank you so much for being here and enlightening all of us on just what's going on up in Sacramento, and partly in Washington as well. And we're hoping that at some point we'll be the recipients of some of those grants, maybe to help with our infrastructure. I know water for us is huge. It's our top 3 issues: water, water, and water. So moving forward, I wanted to introduce right now George Lay, the President and Chief Operating Officer for Montecito Bank and Trust.
Well, thank you, everybody. You know, Betty, that your comments really resonated with me. First in my family to go to Cal State Northridge, this Montecito Bank and Trust, providing $320 million of PPP loans, handling 3,500 small businesses. I mean, it's a community, and I really appreciated your comments. So thank you very, very much. I really appreciate the time, here at the podium. I have a table of amazing associates whose ongoing commitment to volunteerism and community programs are just one of the few reasons that Montecito Bank and Trust is recognized as the best bank by many publications across the Central Coast. In fact, we were recognized for the 5th year in a row by the American Banker as one of the best banks to work in the country. So it's really, really extraordinary. Good afternoon. I'm George Lease. I am the President and Chief Operating Officer at Montecito Bank and Trust, and is the title sponsor of today's State of the City. It is my honor that I have an opportunity to speak with all of you. I would like to take a moment to give a shout out. Montecito Bank team, stand up. We have here Linda Johansson. We have Monica Trouvé. We have Andy Rodriguez. We have Rick Weber, Dave Porter, our Chief Credit Officer, Ashley Davis, our Head of Marketing, and Heather Ames, who's Head of our Human Resources Department. They actually run Montecito Bank and Trust. And, they all live in the community and volunteer in the community and love this community. I really want to thank the Solvang Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum today. The Chamber has continued to be such an invaluable resource to local businesses while renewing and establishing deeper relationships with many of you. And probably in many ways, just knowing how tenacious Tracy is, really encouraging collaboration amongst us all on multiple fronts. The Chamber of Commerce is an amazing advocate for the business community. Tracy, thank you for everything you do. I'm also, again, Betty, to some of your comments, I'm so thrilled about the progress our communities have made on the road to recovery from the global pandemic. During these last 3 years, and it has been 3 years, that we've learned a lot. I know we have it at the bank, for sure, about ourselves, about our communities, and how businesses can adapt to critical moments, reinventing themselves and persevering through change. It is this learning that inspires us to keep going forward and find new ways to interact, conduct business, and serve our clients. All of the things that you had to ramp up to do, all of the things that you never had to do before in ways that you couldn't have even imagined you were going to do it. You've shown what is possible when you face challenges. You've accomplished so much under such immense pressure. I bet there were times when you thought, Uncle, I give up. I can't do this anymore. And you know what? You went right back and did more. And I believe that's what they call grit, and you have a lot of it. You should be so proud of yourselves. This is still a defining moment for our communities, and has certainly been a defining moment at Montecito Bank and Trust for all our associates. Each of us has maneuvered through our own personal pandemic response to serve our communities and clients, to be there for our families, and to maintain our physical and mental health. It is the lasting commitment to community, paired with the openness for new ideas and the unwavering teamwork that makes us all destined for success. I'm thrilled to share that Montecito Bank and Trust continues to support the important work that the not-for-profit communities do up here in the San Ynez Valley. We have donated more than $60,000 so far, from events such as Danish Days and the 4th of July fireworks to infrastructure projects at the Solvang Theater Fest to the Solvang Senior Center, and of course many of the fundraising events in between. We're all here to help make the communities we serve better places to live and work. And I was at the Cowboy Ball on Saturday, and it was a blast, and I saw many of you there. As the largest locally owned community bank in the Central Coast, we're proud to continue to work alongside you and see what we can accomplish next together. From everyday banking needs to just knowing a familiar face like the team out in Solvang, they're there to greet you, maybe grab an ice cream cone, or answer any questions you might have, to time-saving tools like digital banking, depositing checks anywhere, sending wires anywhere in the world, and a world-class experience that waits you when you go into our Solvang office. If you're looking to grow your business, buy equipment or inventory, or just safely have a bank to fall back on in case you need it, we're here to help. We have lending with decisions in a matter of minutes. We invested in a new system that allows us to give you a decision on a loan in seconds, much like you would see on some of the online apps like Cabbage, only much better. Not only are our rates likely lower, but you're actually dealing with a friendly person who can answer a question as opposed to, working that deal on your iPhone or behind a computer screen. So when the moment is right for your business, we're here to help you navigate and achieve your goals. And while much of what we offer can be done online, I am super excited to welcome you to come into our Solvang branch and experience what it's like to be at a community bank. For those of you in the room who bank with Montecito Bank, we just want to say thank you for your loyalty and for your patronage and for inspiring our own associates to be a world-class bank. And if you haven't had a chance to experience Montecito Bank and Trust, you ought to come in and check out that amazing team that is sitting at that table. They're just the best. I just want to say, Tracy, thank you for having us here. Have a wonderful state of the city, and thank you very much from everybody at Montecito Bank and Trust.
All right. Thank you, George. Appreciate those words. Thank you, Montecito Bank and Trust, for being there for the City of Solvang, too. Moving on now, it's our time. So this is, I wanted to thank first off Tracy and the Chamber for putting on this event. Every year that we've had this, they're always the one that is our partner in putting on this for everyone in the business community and just the general population at large. I believe this is recorded.
Yes.
And it will be on the City of Solvang website, and I'm hoping the Chamber of Commerce website, so any of you that have friends or family that weren't able to be here, they will be able to view it as you can our city council meetings as well. And hopefully I look as good up here right now as I do on those other ones. Thought I had to break the ice here somehow. I figured I might as well make me the brunt of the joke. And I also again like to thank the Craft House at the Cork for hosting today this event. We appreciate them putting us top dog on their list, and like they said, they worked on getting this flooring done. I know they pulled it off on Friday. We were here for the ribbon cutting on Thursday, and so they did some nice crunching to get this done for everyone. So thank you again for taking the time to do that for all of us. We hope we can enjoy the events that you have planned coming up, and I do stand-up comedy and musician as well, so if you ever need anybody. Just kidding, just kidding. So anyway, I wanted to introduce just a few people that are here. Some of our, I know just right off from our sister city, we have Buellton, a couple of people here representing Buellton. And so I'd like to introduce Mayor Holly Sierra, Councilmember John Sanchez, over on that side. Well, you're all over the place. We're trying to make it equal and inclusive and diverse at the same time. Go figure how that. And I see over there at that table, and we also have Scott Wolf, the city manager for Buellton. And I see over there as well, we have Tracy's counterpart over in Buellton, so Kathy Vreeland from the Buellton Chamber and their Visitors Bureau as well. I'd like to introduce everyone to our newest member who just received a promotion based on a retirement of our undersheriff. So Undersheriff Craig Bonner. Craig is actually the one that runs the day-to-day operations of the sheriff's office throughout Santa Barbara County, so we thank you for taking care of all of us and keeping us safe. And I'd also like to introduce Solvang Patrol Sergeant, who's here today, a new grandpa as of Sunday, Sandy Frosto, one of our locals, and our former police chief, Jeff Green, sitting next to him, who's was just transferred out of Solvang and Buellton and the San Ynez Valley and is now over in that nice cushy job at the airport doing the air support unit, ASU. So when you look up in the sky and you see a helicopter rolling around, he said, check on the left side to make sure it's listing a little to the left That way you know he's in it. Thank you, Jeff. Moving on, on behalf of the City Council in the city, I'd like to thank the community for working together to help others get through this pandemic. I'm hoping I don't do this. By the giving of your time and your financial support to the food banks and various nonprofits, Solvang residents have maintained the attitude of neighbor helping neighbor. And kept the sunshine in our fields. We celebrated many new businesses opening during this time. I know one of them I see over there, Miguel Limon with Sono Picado. Give a little shout out for him. He's just up the street. I know he's been helping out during the music and the concerts in the park, providing refreshments for everyone. And I'd like to encourage our community to continue to support our local businesses. It is what makes the community run, and it's vitally important. We do need your residents also, and I'd like to just thank all the candidates that just stepped up that are hoping to run for city council and mayor. And I know they'll do a great job with any one of those that you choose. So stay involved as residents here. Keep us on our toes. You are valued as everyone is essential to make a city work. As a city, we have tried to establish a sense of decorum and civility throughout the pandemic by being welcoming, supportive, and inclusive. This year, we again celebrated Juneteenth, as this day of remembrance and celebration was officially made our newest national holiday. We also welcomed a new event in Solvang with the first Pride Festival and Parade. And Solvang also celebrated with our traditional events like the 90th anniversary parade of the Rancheros Visitores, the 4th of July parade, and fireworks. And we have coming up Danish Days and Yule Fest at the closing out at the end of the year. So hopefully all of you will be a part of that and keep those traditions rolling. The city is always trying to keep our residents and businesses safe and secure, as public safety is one of our top priorities. We have just completed negotiations with our sheriff's office to provide our police services for another year, and are now working with Santa Barbara County Fire to maintain our fire services with possibly a new Station 30, which is what Solvang Station is. The city is also committed to protecting our financial assets as we take our fiduciary responsibilities seriously. To that end, the council is asking for the voters' support for the upcoming 1% sales tax increase. This will be a benefit to all of our residents and businesses as the city looks to increase our overall revenue tax base to continue paying for the services that help to protect and serve each one of us here in Solvang. Our local businesses and hotels have had an amazing year during this last year, and that prosperity has also helped to pay for services for our residents. I'd again like to thank the community for supporting our businesses and buying local. It truly does make a difference for everyone. I'd also like to thank our local nonprofits for stepping up to help feed, clothe, assist with utility payments and tax services for our seniors and disadvantaged community. And also to our museums and churches for providing a place of safety and meditation to help with our mental and spiritual health. Lastly, to my fellow neighbors and residents, thank you for allowing me to be your mayor. It has been my honor to represent and serve you. You all have been heard. You are all vital. To my fellow council members, I'd like you each to stand up. Mayor Pro Tem Mark Infante, who looking like he will be our next mayor going forward as he's running unopposed. Councilmember Jim Thomas, Councilmember Claudia Arona, and Councilmember Robert Clark. Thank you for your service to our community. It's been amazing to work with each of you these past few years, and I'm honored to serve alongside you. We still have a few things to go until the end of the year, so keep reading those agendas. And whether we have agreed or disagreed, we have been civil and respectful of each other, and I'm proud of each and every one of you as we have worked together for our beloved Solvang. That's all I have. I can't cry anymore. My wife will hate me when I do that. Overall, I think Solvang is in a much better spot than we were a few years ago. We've made it through this pandemic. We have done it together. And I thank each and every one of you for stepping up and helping, however that was, whether you were out buying groceries or supporting our farmers market, whatever it was, buying gas. By the way, thank you for that 23-cent reduction on diesel. It'll allow me to actually travel a little bit further in our lovely state of California so I can visit the state of California, which has the most parks in the world. So we're pretty honored and blessed to be able to be here. I'd like to now introduce our city manager, Zena Bradford, and she will really tell you how the state of the city is. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I had a couple of other important announcements to make, as I didn't have those notes in front of me, but I'd be remiss if I did not introduce and thank you also for being here. Supervisor, who's our chairman, Joan Hartman, sitting at our table. Thank you, Joan. And Supervisor Greg Hart, who's here. I also understand it is your birthday. So I was going to have everybody sing happy birthday, but maybe we better not. I don't know. We'll just leave it at happy birthday, Greg. And right in front, I'm just seeing Lauren Clement from Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, who we all are part of the board of directors and working. Thank you for being here. And I apologize for anyone else that I've missed. So, Zena, it's all yours. I can go eat.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, and it's an honor to be here today and to work for this community. I have structured my presentation very positively, but I also appreciate our state controller being here today and giving us some of that reality check that, yes, there is some signs of recession. So as I present to you all of the good news about the city of Solvang, keep in mind that, yes, we may have to continue to stand together. Now, in full transparency, I do not do stand-up comedy, so I'm going to be a bureaucrat for today. Sorry about that, but it is important, I think, for us to get together once a year and really review where the city of Solvang is and what projects we're working on. So if we can get my presentation up. Not catching my controller. All right, so first we're going to talk about the thriving economy. As everybody has mentioned here, our small businesses are really the heart of our economy. It's a very small and unique community. We work very closely together, work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce. I would say that I pretty much probably know most of our businesses in town, and everybody has done just a fantastic job through the recession. So if we can go to the next slide, you'll just have to roll through this. As we were sitting down and thinking and recollecting through the pandemic and what happened with our businesses, we recognized that we're a fortunate community to where we actually didn't have any businesses go out of business because of the pandemic. Thanks to everybody working together with the chamber, the local bank, the state of California, the federal assistance, and the city, and all of our businesses together, all of our businesses stayed in business. And we also found out and discovered that, guess what? we actually had a lot of new businesses move into town throughout the pandemic. So if you look at this slide on the left in white, that's all the businesses, and we may even miss some, but over a dozen businesses have opened up during pandemic or have moved into the city of Solvang. So that is awesome for us, awesome community. Beyond that, we also discovered that some of our existing businesses actually took advantage of being entrepreneurial and expanded their business. So the businesses that you see on the right in the red, those are listed as expansions, and we continue to work and support those businesses as we now move into recovery from the pandemic. So thank you to those businesses as well and being so entrepreneurial. If we can go to the next slide. I want to give you some highlights on how we're doing as a city from our financial perspective. So we actually really enjoyed record high revenue over the last year in 21-22. We as a city collected record high sales tax. So we celebrated almost $2 million in collections, which is the highest that we have ever had since the city incorporated. Now, moving to the next slide, we also show great increase in our TOT, or the hotel tax collection. We got almost $5 million. Once again, great recovery community, to where we actually received the most TOT we have ever had since the history of the city. Moving on to the next slide, just a little factoid for everybody to know about Solvang and how unique we are. We are the third most dependent city in the state of California on our transit tax occupancy. So we get most of our revenue that pays for all of your basic services, all of your parks, your public safety comes from TOT. A lot of other businesses rely a lot more on sales tax as well. So we'll be talking about that towards the end of my presentation. Next slide. So we are the Danish capital of America. That's what we thrive on. That's our look and feel. And if you go to the next slide, this is also a unique, and it's not Disneyland, this is a real community. So Solvang was actually settled in 1911 by a real group of Danes who have built this, all of the infrastructure that you see here today that attracts tourists to come visit us. So we celebrated our 110 years as a community of Solvang last year, and the Chamber of Commerce has celebrated 100 years, and Tracy will talk to that more later today. That was, you see the picture over there in the center that shows really the character and the uniqueness of our architecture, and that is something that Solvang really works hard to maintain and bring forward because it's really done really well for us. A couple of mentions over the last year. We were rated as one of the best 10 cities to visit for a small community and culture. And if you haven't seen the episode of Dinner Impossible, check it out because we had some fun last year. We got to eat a feast, a Viking feast, in the Solvang Park. So all of that is in episode 2 of, I think, or season 2, episode 10 or something like that, but look it up, highly recommend it. It was super fun. Going on to the next slide. So plan solving, what is plan solving? The city of Solvang is, for the first time, going through a comprehensive general plan update. So we are looking at all of our land use elements, housing elements at the same time. And if we look at the next slide, it shows all of the elements that we are working on. And I just want to go over a few of those. So the community design element is something that I just discussed. It's what maintains the unique identity of the city of Solvang. That will be the element that we're going through the community visioning process right now to see where the city of Solvang sees itself in 20 years. And I think the feedback that we are hearing so far is that the city of Solvang really recognizes its history and how well it's done with what it is. So the community design element will continue to lead Solvang over the next 20 years to maintain our unique culture and our architecture. We are also adding a new element, which is the economic development element. We haven't had one before, and that is an element that will continue to support our unique base of our very passionate businesses. And we'll also look at some of the issues that we are recognizing now, especially past the pandemic, that broadband is extremely important. So one of the policies that we will be really diving into is going to be the broadband and the fact that we need to recognize our internet connectivity as a new essential service. So we'll essentially be looking going forward at our internet connectivity for everyone as just the same way as we look at water and electricity. Of course, housing element is something to mention because you will be seeing the fact that we are complying with all of the state regulations and we're moving forward with that. So you will be seeing, despite the fact that we are almost at full build out, you will be seeing some parcels recommended for intensified housing use. The City Council goals. So every 2 years, the City Council gets together and engages the community and adopts priorities for us to work on. So for the years of 22-24, the City Council has adopted the following priorities. Priority number 1 is to enhance local water supply and strive for water independence. Goal number 2 is develop additional parking with focus on underground parking. Goal number 3, improve circulation and develop multimodal transportation options. Goal 4, fiscal sustainability and invest in infrastructure. And goal 5 is to support and diversify tourism while supporting and honoring local organizations serving our community. So, worked on in quite a while, and that is doing a full upgrade of our wastewater treatment plant. We are also moving toward recycled water, so there will be that component as well. It will cost us about $15+ million, but the good news is it's already structured into our rates, and there will be no future increases for that. Now, water supply is, of course, a big issue. We received only 5% allocation from the state this year, and we're expecting 0 allocation next year. We're about 50% dependent on our water supplies from the state and 50% from our local wells. So we're continuing to work on our water supply, but we also ask the community to conserve as those resources are limited. We are working on developing local wells, but once again, we face some challenges next to the river with our trout control, etc. So once again, please conserve, and we're very much looking at the state in partnership with that as well. We'll be working on parking improvements, so looking at options of potentially having a parking structure somewhere in the city of Solvang. We're also working on traffic improvement studies, specifically for the Mission Drive, which is our main thoroughfare through town, improving that circulation. And then also the Viborg and Friggensburg Canyon corridor. We'll be looking at options to slow folks down, as that is our local detour. Some of the exciting things will be upgrades to our parks, specifically to the Hans Christian Andersen Park. We are looking at a new playground set and also improvements to pickables and a pump track. And then, of course, we're investing quite a bit into roads and keeping those improved. Community-funded projects. Now, I really want to take a moment to give shout out to a couple of major capital improvements that have gone in or will be going in to be enjoyed and to service our community that have been supported by the community itself and has required very little taxpayers' dollars. So a shout out to our Theater Fest. They have completed a $5 million plus project on time, have been wonderful to work with, and have a brand new facility opened and operating this season. So hope all of you will go and enjoy that new facility. Thank you. All funded by our community and donors. Now, the next project that's in the final stages of approval and the fundraising is in the final stages, our senior center has been wonderful. And big shout out to them for being completely independent and running with it and completing their process and moving forward with construction. So our community will actually enjoy a brand new senior facility that is completely funded by our community, and the city has had to help them very little. So big shout out to our senior center. We look forward to that. Okay, so our private sector development is also thriving. We have been extremely busy throughout the pandemic as lots of developers are interested in moving forward with projects. So this just shows a few examples of fairly significant developments that have been already approved in the city of Solvang. We have an 11-unit hotel that will be going forward on the west side of town. We are also working with a developer on a major hotel and housing development on the east side of town. You see some of the photos right there. And then there's a lot of other improvements that are going in. We are looking at finally having the project go into the old Union Bank that you see on the corner that has been vacant for a while. That will be a European deli restaurant. We have a new April Skiver Hus opening up on Copenhagen. And then another exciting one is the Sensum Clinic, which will be a 30,000 square feet medical office building that is going into town. So that will be a great medical facility to have. Now we're also focusing on renovating buildings that are existing. So there's been a couple of great examples to where the renovations are going forward at the Waterville building and also the building across from that that's been repainted as shown in the photo. Okay, so now I want to talk about Measure U. What is Measure U and why is it needed? Measure U is a proposed local sales tax increase of 1 cent. The reason Measure U is on the ballot is because remember that we are talking about lots of needs in infrastructure and our core services, and we may be entering into recession as well. So we reached out to the community and we asked the community's opinion whether something like this should be considered. And what we received and what we heard from the community, that the community is in support of placing a 1% sales tax increase on the ballot. Now you can go to our city website to learn all about Measure U. That's at www.cityofsolvang.com/Measure U. And I'll walk through some of those facts right now. So Measure U will help fund community prioritized city services such as completing deferred maintenance on streets, roads, sidewalks, fixing potholes and city facilities, preventing fires by removing brush and other flammable fuels, maintaining 911 emergency response and neighborhood police patrols, and maintaining senior and adult and youth recreation programs. Measure U will continue to give Solvang local control over local funds for local needs. No funds can be taken by Sacramento. Sorry, our guest key speaker, but it's going to be our local money. Measure U requires an independent citizens oversight committee, financial audits, and yearly reports to the community to ensure that all funds are spent as promised. As 2/3 of Solvang sales tax is paid by out-of-town visitors and tourists, if enacted, Measure U ensures they pay their share for utilizing our city services. Groceries and prescription medications are exempt from Measure U, so it's not a burden on seniors or low-income residents. So Measure U will be on the ballot for November election. And with that, I would just like to end on a fun note and remind everybody that we will be celebrating the 85th Danish Day season. So they're finally back after 2 years sabbatical for COVID, but they're back. We welcome them. So on September 16 and 18, please everybody be here in Solvang to celebrate the Danish Days with us. And I'd like to finish this off. Showcases our Danish unique.
That well, I didn't mention Wendy Mata over here. She's the senior district representative for Congressman Salud Carbajal. Thank you for being here, Wendy. And Shelby Sim from Visit St. Inez Valley. There you are, Shelby. Give you a little shout out there. Thanks for all you do with our hotels and working with them. I also finally we're at the close of this, and I did want to introduce right now our Chief Executive Officer of the Solvang Chamber of Commerce, Tracy Beard, everyone.
Thank you all. Solvang is a small town. We are a community of residents first, business owners. We are a Danish community of history. We are first settlers, we're the Chumash. We are a third generation of what we wanted to say Danish business owners inherited from grandfathers and fathers. In this time in our community, we're preserving the culture. The Chamber has existed for 101 years, and we are celebrating that 100th anniversary this year because we missed it during the pandemic. So congratulations to every business that's been part of the Chamber and for staying in business as long during this incredible year, and it's been a crazy 3 years, as we like to say, as we're moving forward. Solvang has always made it through the pandemic with our tourism. We have only 6,000 residents. With communities, our neighbors next door with Reach, our local business owners that receive tickets on their own. Thank you for coming today, and I say thank you very much for making that effort to be here today. Solvang in the business community started as a men's business association. When we talk about sponsorship, sponsorship makes a difference all the time in our community, our financial institutions. So when you have people like Montecito Bank, Union Bank that support the economic programs, C&D, LDP advisors, SoCal Gas, and Comcast, we can't do without these people in our community. Let's look at that. When we look at sponsorship, we can't do without them being here every single day and making the wheels happen for every single business in the community, from picking up the trash or doing something like education. As part of our large sponsorship, we have Chambers on Wheels. A lot of our businesses you don't see here today because they're on wheels. They're coming in and out of our community all the time, expanding deliveries into our merchants. Thank ExxonMobil today. We don't get around without gas and oil still, even with my shoes today. I want to thank the Berryman, Les and Guy, Alan Hancock expanded local education in the San Ynez Valley, creating local institutions and expanding before and during the pandemic. Alan Hancock has been incredible to our students and parents. They've created a promise program for the students to make life impact easier for the next generation to get an education. So I ask you support our local business community in that effort in our local education community. Solving churches, educational programs, our nonprofit, our arts. The Chamber has provided music in the park for 15 weeks. We will continue to the end of the season on our own. And people in this room take care of the financing as business owners and help that. And that's what part of that sponsorship does. We have an aging community. I thank V&A Health as we work forward, as we work at Sansom Clinic, Dignity Health. We have the best hospital that's come to our community and has been here. This is what community is about. It's everything. We are everything in a small community. We don't live without tourism. We depend on tourism at every level. So I thank Shelby and his team at Visit SYV. And I'll tell you why, because we need those hotels filled. We crab a little about traffic, but they make the tax dollars easier for the community, and we have sidewalks here. So I like to say that very much on both levels. So with 1 million visitors that have come, we've also been able to learn how to take care of the tourism, how to keep them safe. And we've done that all together with everyone in every one of our hotels and working hard, all of our businesses. As I wrap this up, I really want to just say thank you for the culture of people that come here and the new generations that move forward. Solving is the heart of Santa Barbara County, and we are the heart of Small Business USA. So I want to say thank you very much from behalf of the Chamber. You all received a 100-year pin, and this is just a celebration. I have a little special announcement just to make. We celebrated and we did it on video for 2 years in a row. Today, I have Iris Rideau here. She was honored as the Chamber, so stand up, Iris, and give Iris a round of applause, please. Iris was named Pacific Coast Business Times Woman of the Year. She was named by the Chamber of Commerce. She was also our nominee. And if you don't know Iris's little podcast that she likes to do, she has a podcast and she has a book that every one of our guests will receive, Speakers from Black to White, One Life Between Two Worlds. And I've also had the pleasure of talking with her on her journey, and I've listened to her journey. So I think as we talk about diversity, spend time with Iris and what she has done in her life. She has made from her to our guest, she has offered 3 of her special vineyards, wine from her private collection to our speakers today. So we're very excited to say that. And, you know, we have a city manager that's a female. And I want to thank Zena. This is the first woman city manager we've had in this community. So I want you all to give Zena a round of applause. It's hard to be a woman, but let me tell you, the 26th of this year is Equality Day. So remember that when you have women next to you, your wives, your kids. We work extra hard in the years. So I really am grateful that we celebrate Equality Day with our women speakers that we had. And we have George, that was special today to us too. And that, so thank you. All of our gift baskets were done locally. Everything was given to us, and everything was done by women in the baskets that was made. Oil, everything was done, all the wine, all the olive oils, except for our cookies were donated by Kirk Holmes today because I didn't get enough time to walk down the street to go get my other cookies from my other ladies. Thank you to my board of directors. We have the most amazing board of directors at this Chamber of Commerce. They are strong, they're solid, and I just want to say thank you. Melanie and this team has done a great job here today. Vicki Connor, Diane helped me very much, Wickenbach, who helped me check in everyone today so I could spend time with you. And Mitzi, our new young lady in the back, who is our marketing coordinator, has been with us 6 months. So that's all I have. We have a few gifts to give out, and so you need to bring my little raffle item. We have a few raffles to give out, and we're going to we can ship anything back. So that's all I have, and I'm going to give it back to Charlie, and we have some raffles to give out, so thank you.
All right, I guess we have some raffles items to give away. Betty, would you do the honors of? Do we pick out one or two? Two. We'll get a second one. All right, so everybody has a ticket. Make sure you grab your tickets. And the first number that's picked, and I guess Tracy will, or Missy will be giving out those gifts. Can we say what it is? It's from the zoo. It's a family zoo package from Santa Barbara Zoo. All right. So the number for all of you animals out there and animal lovers, 522-174. 522-174. All right. You animal. I need to check that just to verify. Transparency, yes, it is the right number. There you go. Congratulations. All right, we have evidence here. I'm going to give that to Sandy to book for safekeeping. And the second one, go ahead and pick it. I don't know what that package is. So Tracy? The Ballard Canyon Viticulture map? Oh, grant map? Is that what it is? Viticulture, it shows the viticulture area for Ballard Canyon on a map. It's actually kind of cool. Do I have a ticket? No, I don't have one. All right, it's 522. Oh, there's three more numbers. 041. 522041. And if we can verify that ticket, please. In the interest of oh, one more? Okay. Pacific Western Bank. Italian with some wine. All right, here we go. 522218. 522218. All right, out of table 13. Lucky table 13. Did we verify that ticket, please? All right, we're good. I think John over there was nice to pass that over. Anyway, again, as final comments, I'll just wrap this up quickly here because I know all of you have places to go and people to meet. And thank you all for being here on behalf of the City of Solvang and the Chamber. Again, thank you all for being here and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.